Welcome to Slice of the Month. A lot of familiar faces on the call, but there are some new people, first time Slice of the Month participants. So welcome, we're so excited to have you here. My name's Emma. I am the nutrition coordinator at Project Share. And every month since September, we have been doing Slice of the Month over Zoom, and it's been good fun. I mean, I miss seeing all of you in person, but it's so nice just to still be able to cook together. And so as the nutrition coordinator, my kind of goal for these classes is I want to make a healthy recipe together, but I also throw in healthy eating tips, healthy eating ideas as we go. But also feel free to jump in, ask questions, share ideas, participate. It's always fun when this is a conversation and we are really cooking together. So feel free to comment two ways. You can either write in the chat box or feel free to just unmute yourself and pop into the conversation. I know a number of you are cooking with me today, and then I know some of you are just going to cook at a later time, whatever is easiest for you. So I'll give you the lay of the land, and then I just have an icebreaker question before we get started. So the recipe we're making today is called white bean shakshuka. I'm just gonna quickly, there we go. So basically this recipe, I know some of you are familiar, and then some of you may not have heard of this recipe before. Basically what it is we're gonna simmer a tomato sauce with some spices and then poach some eggs into that tomato sauce, and then serve this with crusty whole wheat bread that's toasted. So this recipe, from what I was reading, it originated in North Africa, but now it's eaten in the Mediterranean pretty often. But shakshuka is an Arabic word that just means a mixture. So there's a lot of different varieties of this recipe. You'll see if you kind of look at it online, people use some different spices, they may use some different vegetables, but the base is this simmered tomato sauce with the poached eggs, and then you can take different variations. If you've heard of eggs in purgatory, that's a dish from South Italy. This is really similar. Why I love this recipe, it's really quick. So it will come together in under 30 minutes. So if you're running around and have had a really hectic day, or you're just tired and you don't feel like cooking, this recipe comes together so quickly, which is great. It also uses one pot. If you're anything like me, you hate doing dishes. And so this uses one pot and one cutting board. It is very streamlined in the equipment you need. And it also uses pantry staples. So the base of the recipe is canned diced tomatoes, and eggs, and white beans. So really things that we tend to have around in our houses, also ingredients that we always have at Project Share. So it's just a creative way to use ingredients we cook with all the time in a new and creative way. So, and it's also healthy, which is always going to be something I'm looking for when I'm picking out recipes. So that will be the recipe. And then March is National Nutrition Month. And so throughout this Slice of the Month, I will be sharing my two kind of go-to healthy eating tips. So that's the lay of the land for today. But before we get started, I just wanted to ask just an icebreaker question. So the question is, what was your favorite food as a child? My favorite food as a kid, I ate so many frozen peas. I don't know how I started, but every day after school, I would eat a pack of frozen peas.
Project Share does these like.
What was your favorite food as a kid?
Mine was cooked carrots.
Cooked carrots.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could just eat them, you know, all the time as a little kid.
Nice.
Mine, popcorn.
I didn't hear her.
Am I muted?
No, I think we just didn't hear you. Can you repeat what you said?
Popcorn.
Popcorn.
Mine was macaroni and cheese, pretty common.
Yeah.
But I had my own language, and I called it Pontiac. And my second thing, I wanted every meal 3 times a day. I wanted gump and Pontiac, which was macaroni and cheese and milk.
Okay. All right.
I liked my mom's lasagna and her disappearing marshmallow brownies. I would take either at any time.
Yum.
Yeah,
Of course.
Mine's potato.
my mom's spaghetti and meatballs were like, we had it every.
My favorite was always dessert.
Dessert.
Oh yeah.
This is quite the variety that is coming up. Mariana said baby food apricots with tapioca.
Oh.
This is quite the variety. I love it.
I personally liked to eat ribs as a kid.
Ribs. You had a
Yeah.
very fancy palate as a child.
I
love it.
I was just very big into meat as a kid. Still am.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
could never understand.
We're really running the gamut here, from like cooked carrots to dessert to ribs to really savory Italian dishes. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing. I just want
to know, did anybody ever do cottage cheese and apple butter? That was my nephew's go-to.
My friend's father did that. Yeah.
I could not stomach that.
Well, I couldn't either, but you know, I eat it now and I like it.
Well, it's very Pennsylvania. It's a Pennsylvania tradition.
My friend's father used to eat that king syrup molasses on top of cottage cheese and then pepper it till it was completely black. And I used to think that was so disgusting. And, you know, now I like that too.
It's funny how tastes change over time. They really can. Nothing's always set in stone. All right, well, let's start cooking. So let's make sure you have what you need in front of you. So I have my recipe. You will need some oil to cook in the pan, 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. If you picked up an ingredient bag from Project Share, all your minced garlic and your spices are measured exactly how you need them. I know there was some confusion with that last month, so everything should be okay. You'll also need an onion. You'll need 28 ounces of diced tomatoes. So either 2 small cans or 1 like big 28-ounce can. And then you'll need half a tablespoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of oregano, and an 1/8 teaspoon of crushed red pepper. You'll also need a can of white beans. I'm using cannellini, but you can use whatever white bean that you want. And then you'll need 4 to 6 eggs. And then optionally, some feta, as well as some crusty whole wheat bread. The other thing I recommend is having like a good pan for this. So the pan I'm using is like about this deep. So this will be really nice to simmer the sauce in. So I kind of recommend a pan with higher sides and one with a lid. So first we just want to go ahead and start heating up our pan. So I'm going to add a little bit of oil. As always, use the oil you have available to you. I'm using avocado oil today just because I have this really big jug I need to get through. And then turn your burner to about a medium heat. And then once that's set, we are good to start chopping up our onion.
Emma, is this your kitchen?
It is my kitchen.
It's lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like the farmhouse sink.
Thank you so much. I can't take credit for it. I did not, design this kitchen, but so I'm just gonna go ahead and dice up this onion. And just as I'm doing this, I always, onions and garlic are in so many recipes that we're cooking with, and they add really nice flavor. But from a nutrition perspective, it's really incredible the health benefits that onions and garlic add to our diet. And so, for example, onions and garlic are both considered a food that has a lot of prebiotics in them. So basically what that means, what prebiotics do is they work in our gut along with probiotics, which are foods with probiotics are like yogurt and fermented foods. And they keep our gut healthy. And you may have heard over the last few years, there's been a lot of buzz about the health benefits of having a healthy gut. And some of those benefits are, we see that people who have a healthy gut have lower rates of depression. They also tend to have healthier blood sugar levels. And a healthy gut is associated with healthier weights. And so it's just really interesting that onions and garlic, staples that we use in so many recipes, give us those health benefits. There's also been some link to onions and garlic reducing risk of certain types of cancer. And garlic is really good for blood pressure. So I love that these ingredients we use all the time really work to our benefit and for our health. So that's the power to me of onions and garlic, and using them a lot in recipes, not just for the flavor of it, but really using them for the health benefits. So if your onion is diced, let's go ahead and add our onion and our garlic to our pot. We're just going to saute this until the onions are see-through. So I'm going to come back to my pot and add in my onion. I'm going to turn my heat down a little bit. That was a bit more of a sizzle than I wanted. And add my garlic. And then just mix it up into your saucepan. All right, so we'll let that saute for about 2 minutes. We'll just keep watching it. And at that point, just make sure you have your next ingredients ready. So the next ingredients we want will be our diced tomatoes. I didn't say this at the beginning, but for these recipes, I'm a big advocate for make these recipes work for you and your family. You know the ingredients you have on hand, you know your eating preferences, you know your different dietary needs that you need to follow. So feel free, change this up. So one substitution that you could make for this recipe is if you have a garden and it's the summer and you are inundated with fresh tomatoes, use fresh tomatoes in this recipe. You can definitely use whatever you have on hand. We're at the tail end of winter, so I'm using a canned tomato as well. And then it looks like Erin's adding in green peppers as well, which is fantastic. So just use what you have on hand. I will say these diced tomatoes, no salt added, you know, pretty picky about the ingredients that are, you know, in our canned goods. Canned goods can be really high in sodium, so we just want to make sure we keep that number low. Let me just
Really love these canned tomatoes that Project, the diced tomatoes.
Oh, they're very good.
They're very good. I use them in a lot of dishes. I even use them when I make my homemade sauce.
Yes, it's a really nice product. So as you know, we just wait a bit longer for the onions to cook. My first healthy eating tip today, in honor of National Nutrition Month, is there's this tagline, and it's eat food, mostly plants, not too much. And it's the individual who said this, his name is Michael Pollan, and he's a food journalist. And he did years ago now, like all this research on the food that we were eating in America. And after all of his research, he was like, if I could just boil down healthy eating into kind of one phrase, he would say this: eat food, mostly plants, not too much. And I love how he simplifies that. So let's go ahead and add our tomatoes and our spices into the pot. And then I'll keep talking about that idea of eat food, mostly plants, not too much. So go ahead and add your diced tomatoes.
Michael Pollan has written several really good books about food. I mean, they're not boring either. I mean, they are informative and interesting at the same time.
Who's the author again?
His name is Michael Pollan.
Michael Pollan. Okay.
So then in your tomato mixture, go ahead and add in half a tablespoon paprika, 1 teaspoon cumin, half teaspoon oregano, and 1/8 teaspoon of crushed red pepper. If you really like spicy, you could add more crushed red pepper. If you don't like spice, you can leave it out.
I was gonna ask, how hot will the 1/8 make this?
It will be on the, like, in between mild and medium. It really won't have a strong kick. If you're really sensitive, I would maybe put in a little less, but it's not terribly spicy.
Okay, I'm a little sensitive, so I wasn't sure if I should put even just the 1/8.
Yeah, you could put in just half of the 1/8. And then go ahead and make sure that your sauce is mixed really well. And we'll bring that back up to a simmer and simmer it for 5 to 7 minutes. So I'm going to set a timer just because we get to talking and it's nice for a timer to keep me on track. One less thing to think about.
A question. Erin. I think this is my third or fourth. I couldn't make last month, but I noticed we use paprika a lot.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But I've never cooked with it like I have in the last 3 months.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I think part of it is a lot of the recipes, like I'm thinking of the African peanut stew, I think had paprika in it with the diced tomatoes. They're recipes that are kind of North African Mediterranean, and paprika is used a lot. That is an interesting comment. I usually think of myself as I love rosemary and basil, so definitely veering, but we'll add some more variety in there.
My mother only used paprika to put on deviled eggs or on top of the potato and macaroni salad. But I use it for a lot of recipes.
Yeah.
My mom too. My mom too. That's what it was.
It was just a garnish.
It was just a garnish.
Yep.
So, just to go back, so while this simmers, just to unpack that idea.
You're good. You're
eat
good.
Food, mostly plants, not too much. What
Yes.
that says to me from a nutrition perspective is to say, eat whole, minimally processed food. So we live in a culture where there's so much fast food, and you can buy so much food at gas stations. And you walk into the grocery store, and in the freezer aisle, there's all these frozen entrees, or you walk down like the grain aisle, and there's these prepackaged microwavable meals. But when you look at those, a lot of those foods have ingredient lists that are like 25 ingredients long. And when you look at the nutrition information, they're so high in added sugar and sodium and saturated fat, which are not great for our blood pressure, for our blood sugar, for our cholesterol, for a lot of different reasons. And so when I hear that, eat food, that idea is, how do we eat minimally processed food, or food in its whole form? So things like fruits and vegetables and 100% whole grains, lean proteins, calcium-rich foods, but really trying to eat food in its original form. That's not to say that we can never eat anything that that comes from a can. But one thing I'm always looking for example, these diced tomatoes, when I read the ingredient lists, the ingredients are tomatoes, tomato juice, and then there's citric acid, which is in there as just to keep it fresh and to preserve it. That's pretty simple. So the company did a little bit of work for me, but it's just tomatoes. Same with canned beans. When I'm looking at these canned beans, the ingredients are the beans itself. So I really love that idea of eat minimally processed food as much as possible. It's going to make sure you're getting a lot of vitamins and minerals and fiber, as well as ensuring you're not getting too much sodium, saturated fat, and added sugar. So yeah, I'm just getting a little note in the box, trying really hard to do that, because we tend to feel so much better when we're eating whole, minimally processed foods. So definitely something just to think about. I think sometimes there can be so many rules around healthy eating and so many different diets and fads, but I just love that idea. Can we eat real food? Mostly plants. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but a lot of fruits and vegetables and beans. We've talked in these sessions about the health benefits of beans, whole grains. There was just kind of more and more information is coming out about how eating a lot of meat, like especially processed meat and red meat, not only increases our risk for heart disease, but also diabetes. So really focusing on food from plants is healthy. I love it. Emma just wrote in, fun fact, citric acid naturally is found in some citrus fruits. So you don't have to be scared of that on the label. It really is a natural product. And then the last part of that, not too much, right? Everything in moderation is something we talk about a lot in nutrition. So let's pop back and check on how our tomato sauce is simmering. I'm gonna stir mine. You can also kind of try and mash it a little bit with your spoon. You can do that. And my timer just went off, so that was really good timing.
That's a loud timer.
It really is. So my sauce is looking like it's at a really nice spot. So what I want to do next is add the beans. I'm going to rinse the beans. So I'm going to pop over to my sink. Anytime I'm using beans from a can, I'm rinsing them really well because you can cut the sodium in half by doing that. So I'm going to go over to my sink and rinse my beans.
I mentioned my girlfriend who's Greek was really excited about this, and I was concerned I can't eat beans, and I'm substituting it with chickpeas. But she said you could also make it without beans.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lisa. Beans are not a traditional addition to shakshuka.
I was thinking you could use rice.
I'm sorry?
I was thinking you could use rice.
Yeah, you could, or have that outside.
Or you could add rice and beans, or just the rice.
Yeah,
But,
you can take this so many different ways. Yeah, and just like Lisa said, beans are not a traditional addition. This just adds a little bit extra protein to the recipe and some healthy, high fiber carbohydrates. So you can make it work for you. So once the beans are added, continue to simmer the sauce for about 1 to 2 more minutes. And then, this is the fun part, we will add the eggs to poach. So when we get to that point, you can use the back of a spoon and kind of make some divots in the tomato sauce, and we'll crack the eggs right into the pan, and we'll just like kind of simmer them in the tomato sauce. You can do 4 eggs, you could do 6 eggs, kind of adjust it based on how hungry you are and how many people you're cooking for. I think I'm gonna do 4 eggs in mine, and then there'll be a little bit of extra of the tomato base for my recipe. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in my eggs. Once you've added your eggs, go ahead and put your lid on the pot, and we're gonna continue to simmer for about 5 minutes. Here's again where you kind of do what you prefer. If you really like kind of like dippy eggs, take it off the stove at 5 minutes. If you want a bit of a firmer yolk, you can go ahead and leave it on for like a minute or 2 longer. And a question just came through, is it good as leftovers? It is good as leftovers. When you reheat it, the egg will continue to cook a little bit, but you can even just make the tomato sauce and store it in the fridge and reheat it and add an egg when you're making it as leftovers. But it tastes good as leftovers. I a few weeks ago made it and I used 4 eggs and I ate it 3 times for leftovers. So I can attest to it. All right, I'm gonna add my eggs.
Excuse me, Emma, as you add your eggs, I got 2 double yolks.
You did?
Wow.
Your luck is off the charts right now. Wow.
I think that means you're gonna come into money, like $1,400.
Yeah.
Don't forget us.
Yeah.
There's a store in Adams County, Kenny's, that sells double yolked eggs.
Yes,
buy
I
a
know your
dozen.
store.
A dozen double yolked eggs. I picked up a
Really?
box just totally by accident one time.
My mom used to buy her groceries there.
At Kenny's.
Yes. She lived out in Gardner's and she
Uh-huh.
liked to go up to Kenny's.
So the other thing you can do before you add your lid is the yolks usually take a little bit longer than the whites. And so you can spoon some of the tomato sauce over the yolks before you put the lid on, and that will lead to a bit more of an even cooking. So I did do that before I put the lid on. And then Rochelle just said added grilled chicken on the side. Awesome. Yeah, adjust the recipes based on what your preference is. I love that. So while this is simmering, I am just going to quickly share my second healthy eating tip. So I did put this as a tip sheet in the email I sent, as well as in the ingredient bag. But what it is this plate. It's called the Healthy Plate.
A show
And
from Project Share.
you may notice it's from the American Diabetes Association, but this is a healthy way of eating for everybody. And I really believe if you can consistently eat this way, it does wonders for your health. So when you think about your meals, when you think about lunch and dinner, what you'll notice about this plate is that half of it is non-starchy vegetables. So whatever you like, whether it's broccoli or asparagus or zucchini, maybe it's cooked carrots, or in this recipe today, a big bulk of this meal is diced tomatoes. So about half of what we're eating is vegetables. And eating more vegetables is anti-inflammatory, good for blood sugar, good for blood pressure, good for cholesterol. And most of us should be aiming to eat 3 cups of vegetables every day. So you may have heard, eat more vegetables, eat more vegetables. 3 cups is the general recommendation. Very few Americans are getting that amount of vegetables every day. Any guesses what percentage of Americans are actually meeting that goal? 3%. Erin's holding up 3 fingers. A little bit better than 3%.
Maybe 10%.
5%. 5%.
5%. Steven said 5%. All right. It's 9%. So a little bit better, a little bit better than what you all were guessing, but 9%. So 90% of us are not getting the vegetables we need. A really great way to make sure you're getting 3 cups of vegetables every day is at lunch and at dinner, making half of what you're eating vegetables. This does so many incredible things for our health. So my challenge for you is to make half your plate vegetables. These can be fresh or canned, like we're using today, or frozen. Any of them work and are added toward your goal of getting that amount of vegetables. And then a quarter of the plate is lean protein. So in this recipe today, that is our eggs as well as our beans. It could be tofu, or it could be grilled chicken, as Rochelle is having for her meal. It could be ground turkey. Fish as well is a great choice. Last month we did salmon. You could do tuna, but leaner protein options for our heart. And then the final quarter is a high fiber carbohydrate. So that's why we're doing beans have our high fiber carb, as well as the 100% whole wheat bread. But this could look like a sweet potato, even a regular potato, as long as it's a quarter of the plate. 100% whole wheat tortillas, brown rice, quinoa. But day in, day out, eating in these proportions is really, really healthy for us. And one reason why I think this way of eating is so helpful is it's not a diet plan. It's not restrictive. All foods fit in this, but it's helpful as a guide. So my timer just went off, as you heard. So I'm going to take my lid off my pot and take it off heat. But before I show you, I'm going to finish my thought. So here's an example, right? We were talking earlier about common foods in central Pennsylvania. So the cottage cheese and the apple butter. A really common meal is meatloaf, mashed potatoes, corn, and a dinner roll, right? So when we think about this plate, how does everything fit? The meatloaf's in the protein section, but then we have mashed potatoes, which are in this quarter. The corn also goes in this corner, as well as the dinner roll. So we're like triple stacked on the carbohydrates, and we're missing not that half of plate of non-starchy vegetables. So I'm not here to tell you to never eat that meal again, but we could switch that around. Maybe your favorite part of that meal is the mashed potatoes. So I would say keep the mashed potatoes, but don't have the dinner roll and don't have the corn, and have a nice leafy green salad instead. That would be one way to change that meal. Maybe you love the corn in that meal, so keep the corn, but then maybe instead of the mashed potatoes, experiment with mashed cauliflower, or have some roasted cauliflower on the side. Change things around to fit this template of a healthy plate. So that is my second healthy eating tip for you.
In my family, half the plate would have been meat.
Yep, that's another very common way of eating. Yep.
And then the about 2/3 of the other half would be potatoes, and then there'd be a little bit of vegetables.
Right. So like a lot of
times, tomatoes are really a fruit. But our government reclassified it in the early 1900s. Yeah. It had something to do with shipping on boats, and I don't know. I forget. I read it a long time ago. But our government reclassified it and made it a vegetable, even though it's really a fruit.
So the best way I've heard it explained before is botanically. So like if you're growing it, it grows similarly to fruit, but the nutrition profile is more close to vegetables. And so we like nutritionally, we consider it a vegetable, but growers would consider it a fruit. It's kind of funny in that way. So the last step for the shakshuka is to sprinkle, if you desire, some feta cheese over this recipe. And then if you're going to be serving this with toast, you can go ahead and add some toast into the toaster. And so I'm going to go ahead and add some. And then one thing I'm going to do is instead of butter, I'm going to spray it with a little olive oil for a healthier option there. But for those of you, I'll try and hold this up so you can see. This is my shakshuka. So it's just a nice big pot. When you serve it, you could just put the whole pot on the table, and everyone could serve themselves, or you could dish it out individually. But this is one pot, right? One pot, it's quick, it's easy, a lot of flavors in a pretty simple dish. So
It needs parsley or basil on top.
yes, you can absolutely add some green. Oh, Lisa, yours looks incredible. I just saw you hold it, your camera up to it. It looks great. For those of you who are cooking, fill me in. How does it look?
Hi, mine is half cooked, half not.
Okay.
Well,
I
it looks
have
good.
two eggs. Two eggs are just sitting there refusing to turn, white. And the middles are still very yellow, which my kids are not going to want. Can you maybe review the tip on how to get the yolks to be a little more solid?
Sure, yeah. So I would take a spoon and spoon some of the tomato sauce over the eggs that aren't cooking, and that should help. And then did you put a lid on it?
I did, but it might have had a crack on one side that probably caused the problem.
Okay, sure.
But yours looks great.
Sorry about that. That's frustrating.
Mariana,
I would maybe, if you
pot.
can, like scoop out what's cooked, the cooked eggs, and then try and like re-simmer the eggs that aren't done yet. Yeah.
Okay.
And I also rotated my pan so that the heat,
Ooh.
some parts I'm new to electric cooking, so I figured that might even out the heat.
Great, thanks, Erin. And I do see your comment. Did I put the feta on? I did. You can sprinkle it on. Yeah. Any other questions, or does anyone else want to show their recipe that they made?
I have an uneven stove top, so I have a couple yolks that didn't quite cook. So I just put some eggs over them to let them cook.
Okay.
I also added 2 minutes. I did mine for 7 minutes instead of 5.
Great. Yeah. Yeah, that's, you guys are all making great points that kind of different stovetops are really different. So Erin, I love your suggestion of when you guys make this again, knowing to rotate it, since poached eggs can be fussy. Yeah.
What kind of plate do you serve this on, Erin? You put it, is it a plate or, oh?
I usually just put it in a bowl.
A bowl? Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So I can even show you that right now.
I figured with a plate, it's going to run off. Right.
Yeah. I like to, I'm not the best at plating, so it's not going to look the prettiest, but I like to use a bowl just because it can be a bit unpredictable how it's going to fit on a plate. So basically, I would just serve it like that. And then use some egg, use some bread to dip it in.
And use the toast to dip it in. Awesome. It smells wonderful. Smells wonderful.
So it's kind of deluxe dippy eggs.
Right. I also, I just see a comment, Erin said mine looks wetter too. It's like, it just kind of like adjusts based on like, cook it a little longer if needed. It's one of those things like we put times on it, but know your stove, know the simmer, and adjust it from there as well. It's one of those recipes, make it again, and you'll kind of listen, you'll figure out some of those quirks too. Thanks for being brave with me. This recipe is a bit different and a bit more temperamental.
Thanks for giving us the courage to try. This will be really fun.
I would never have tried this by myself.
Sure.
I'm so glad I had other people to cook it with.
And Retno, I see your comment that it looks really good. We're sorry we missed you too for the first 20 minutes. Hopefully you still are able to cook the recipe and enjoy it.
Yes, I wish I had a laptop because I have a desktop and I can't drag it into the kitchen to cook at the same time.
Oh,
Can I ask a question about the future?
Sure.
sorry.
For New Year's, I always make Hoppin' John. And I have this whole another bag of black-eyed peas. If you ever come across some recipes for black-eyed peas other than Hoppin' John,
Okay.
could you pass them on?
Sure. Yes, black-eyed peas.
These are the dried ones is what I have. So I need,
Okay.
but I mean, it doesn't even have to be something as a group thing. If you just want to pass me a recipe.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. I will, I'll let you know. I know a few months ago, we were talking about sauerkraut recipes and a few of you sent me recipes. So I can even send those out as well. And then coming up with some black-eyed peas, dried black-eyed peas. So if any of you have recipes for dried black-eyed peas, send them to me and I'll send them out. And I'll keep my eye out for some recipes too.
Thank you.
That's great. Could you just repeat the name of the dish, Pat? There's a question. I didn't quite catch the name of the dish.
Oh, the black-eyed peas is what, oh, Hoppin' John, Hoppin' John. It's a typical New Year's Day. It's sort of like a stewed black-eyed peas and some ham or something of that nature and onions. And it's supposed to bring you good luck in the new year. I think it's a Southern, initially it was a Southern recipe.
Yeah.
Hoppin' John.
There's a lot of good luck swarming around here tonight with the double yolks, the Hoppin' John. I love it. I love it. Awesome.
In our family, it's sauerkraut. But one year we were eating sauerkraut for New Year's, and my son, who's now 51, he was a teenager. He said, "Grandma, you always make sauerkraut for New Year's, and you said it's going to make us healthy and wealthy in the new year." He said, "It's not working, Grandma." And he said, "We got to find out what the rich people are eating on New Year's." He said, and this was way before Trump. He goes, "We got to find out what Donald Trump's eating on New Year's Day, and I'll bet it's not sauerkraut."
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
So he made a good point.
Well, I want to go eat mine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was just going to say, thank you so much all for joining. It's always great to see you. The next class is April 8th. So sign up. We'll be here again on April 8th. Hope to see you again and enjoy your dinner.